here. Welcome to the morning run. I'm blessed this morning to be here. Can take this opportunity to ask me your questions. Can take this opportunity to ask me your questions. So we finished reading the book of Genesis, and I'm very happy that we have at least done that. And I'm blessed this wonderful morning. So let us now begin reading another book, because I think it's wonderful. Any questions up to there? I think it would be wonderful if you ask me your questions as we start preparing to read Exodus. We wouldn't take any break. We're not taking any break, so we have to just hit the ball running. Just hit the ball running and continue moving. Any questions? Not be wasting any time. Let's continue. Any questions up to there? Any questions? So, my brothers and sisters, will continue with our morning run because we want us to finish reading at the stipulated time without any delay. Any questions up to there? Any questions up to there? You can ask me your questions before we continue. Welcome to the morning run. We'll now continue reading the book of Exodus as I'm answering your questions. As I'm answering your questions, I will take one or two questions as I answer your questions. Ask me your questions as we move on. Yeah, we just have a few minutes. I'll take this opportunity to take your questions before we start, because it's going to be a very, very, long run. Ask me your questions. So, as we start, I'll give a very short brief of the book of Exodus. Exodus is the book that we meet Moses, the book where we meet the Ten Commandments, the book where we meet the law, it's the book where we meet a lot of stuff. So if you are here, we just have today, maybe tomorrow, to finish Exodus. I want us to go very quickly. This time around will not be like the first time. This time around we'll have to get there faster than the previous time we were reading. So this time around we'll be working around the clock. I want us to start on a very high note. I don't want us to go slowly. That is how I prefer doing business. The first week of January, I want us to cover a lot of ground. I want us to cover a lot of distance. I want us to first set the tone and set the pace of our things. Let us get there quickly. I prefer, starting on a very high note. I prefer moving very quickly. I prefer, starting on top gear. We are starting on very top gear. And those who want to take things slowly, maybe I'm not going to do that. We're going to start on a very, very high speed. So, ladies and gentlemen, forgive me for that. But we'll be moving very quickly. This time around, it will not be like the first time because we wasted a lot of time. Now, in this time, we are already it's second, third. We have finished Genesis. Now we are moving to Exodus very quickly. Any questions up to there before we start Exodus? I want to take your questions. I want to take your questions. At least I want to take your questions before I start Exodus. I will be taking your questions for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. The first 1 hour, the first stream before I start a book belongs to you, my viewers. You are free to ask me any question that you want. You are free to inquire. All right, you are free. So the first 1 hour before we start, ask all the questions before we start. Because when we start, I don't want you to start saying, The first few minutes I'll be asking you all the questions. You can ask all the questions. Because if we start on a very high note, I don't want you to complain. So it's always good. Anything, I want you to ask questions first before we start. So you can ask me any questions that you prefer, and I will be more than happy to answer you. Because sometimes you're asking somebody, okay, is this some kind of, exactly. All right. Yeah. That is why, I push, when we do our projects, there's usually we first have to set the pace. All right. Because if you wait for the year to go so that you can catch up, no. I want us to first set the pace. Once we set the pace, other things will follow. But if you go slowly, the first few weeks, you will have a lot of trouble catching up. I we together. You'll have a lot of trouble catching up with the rest. So it's always good to start on top gear. All right? It's always good to start on top gear. So please ask me your questions before we start. Because when we start, you will say that, you start complaining. Any questions? I'll be taking your questions before we start because I don't want you to say that I was not told. I want us to ask questions. It's always good to ask your questions before you start saying, when I went there, I was treated very rudely. These people are rude. No, I'm not rude. No. I don't want you to start saying I'm a pain in the ass. No. I just want you to first ask the right questions before we move. Because once we move, we're going to move in good speed. And you start saying, this man is mean, he's like this. But the thing is not mean. You did not ask questions. You did not seek a clarification. You did not even, do your homework. All right? So that's why I'm always telling people, let's first relax. Because if we start, any questions? I'll give you time to ask me questions. I'll give you 1 hour to ask me any questions that you want before we start. Because, you can ask me. This is your time. Ask me now. You can ask me your questions now. As I was saying that, this month we are setting up a studio in town. All right? And, the studio would be operating on a 24-hour basis and would be doing a lot of work. So, you'll be seeing a lot of, activity in this channel, a lot of stuff, So, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I always tell people, before you start doing anything, it's always good to ask questions. What will be what will be expected of me and stuff like that? Because once the engine starts rolling, you will start saying that you're being overwhelmed. All right? You start saying, these people, they don't want to give me a break. They should give me a break. I'm overwhelmed. Stuff like that.